Good morning. Thanks for inviting me to come halfway around the world to speak to you about research methodologies that I'm using in my current PhD program. My name's Daniel Lee. I'm in the third year of my PhD at the University of Tasmania. Today I'm going to be talking about how I've developed a multi-sited distance online ethnography for my project. My PhD research project is examining contemporary popular music courses in Australian tertiary institutions with a focus on modern guitar. At the lowest resolution, the study is ethnographic. There are 4 research questions. The focus of the first 3 questions are pedagogical approaches and curriculum content, and how these are influencing the Australian guitar community and performance styles of graduates. These are essentially ethnographic questions. However, the 4th research question explicitly addresses the participants' perceptions. This is essentially a phenomenographic issue. The scope of my study at the time of data collection, semester 1, 2018, I found 25 tertiary courses across Australia where a student could study a bachelor level degree, so Australian Qualifications Framework Level 7, in contemporary popular music, majoring in performance with the guitar as their primary instrument. These 25 courses are offered in the capital cities of every state except Northern Territory, plus a few regional institutions, across 28 different locations. The course at Mackay, offered by Central Queensland University, is offered in a fully online mode or a fully face-to-face or blended delivery mode. The course at the University of New England in Armidale is only available in a fully online mode with no face-to-face delivery options. So even though the study was primarily an ethnography, because of the phenomenographic slant and geographical issues, it could better be described as a phenomeноgraphically orientated, multi-sited, distance online comparative ethnography. It's an online ethnography as I'm using 21st century communication technologies to conduct the research, as well as examining how institutions are engaging with these technologies. And it's a comparative ethnography because I'm comparing the 25 courses against each other, and also the different data sets and different participant strata against each other. Data were collected from human participants by way of online surveys and recorded telephone interviews, and I also collected unit descriptors for every core unit of every course, plus any other units or electives that related to music performance or the guitar, or any other units that I felt might be relevant to the research questions. The data corpus was analysed using the protocols and procedures for inductive thematic analysis, as outlined by Brown and Clark, Sarantakos and Bryman. Understanding of theory and the relationship between theory and the execution of research is important, as it provides a rationale for the methods employed and a framework within which the findings can be interpreted. Essentially, anthropological studies, so ethnographies, typically take a metaphysical perspective as they examine entities such as customs and beliefs, which are metaphysical entities. The entities in my study that I'm examining are also metaphysical. And in the 21st century, there's a new phenomenon that causes us to rethink definitions, one that my study is examining: virtual or online communities. Are these communities physical communities or metaphysical entities, or both simultaneously? Epistemology is the study of how we know what we know and what types of knowledge are of value. A foundational epistemological issue in social science research is whether the social world can, or even should, be subject to the same research practices as the natural sciences. The general expectation is social sciences examine knowledge from a different epistemological perspective, one not based on universality. Furthermore, contemporary advances in ethnography using digital technologies and studying virtual social phenomena have challenged epistemological assumptions regarding ethnographic knowledge. Historically, the term distance in ethnographic research has inferred removing the researcher from their home culture and physical immersion in distant environs. However, the term distance in ethnography can now refer to the distance between the researcher and the environment under investigation. Distance ethnographies were designed and employed by the US Office of Naval Research during World War II as a tool for understanding the culture of Eastern European and Asian societies. Data in these studies were collected in the form of a variety of cultural products and interviews of immigrants. Postel argues that there is nothing inherently inferior or illegitimate in conducting ethnographic studies remotely. He discusses advances in distance ethnography and influences of modern telecommunications, concluding the overlooked practice of remote ethnography is likely to gain more visibility and methodological sophistication in the coming years. Bankston states space has been restructured by digital media and argues for a revision of distance in the discussions surrounding ethnographic methods. Postel and Pink state that traditional concepts of community, culture and networks have become what they describe as messy with contemporary digital practices. They claim in the context of ethnographic studies of social media, new approaches are needed, particularly when the activities are interwoven with offline activities. The online-offline boundaries of 21st century education communities are ambiguous, as they often include both virtual and real-world activities. Online ethnographies have also been the employ of researchers examining their own culture. Postel states, I quote, "As the numbers of internet users worldwide continues to grow, the internet is becoming more local." End quote. This phenomenon brings with it its own challenges around the definition of local. Communities, including educational communities and their associated practices, are increasingly no longer geographically bound. Thus, it can now be a requirement in the 21st century to use telecommunications technologies to research a single socio-cultural phenomenon. Examining cultural phenomena embedded in larger social or geographical orders, multi-sited research uses traditional and contemporary methodology to gain insight on local and translocal social constructs. Social factors present in the 21st century influencing the need for multi-sited ethnographies in educational research include improved and reduced costs of transport and communication technologies. In discussing multi-sited ethnography, Marcus claims anthropologists have been trying to do something quite different with ethnography in recent decades. I quote, "There is something about the way traditional units or objects of study present themselves nowadays, for example, culture, cultures, community, subjects, and a near revolution in theory that has immensely complicated the way these classic terms are understood." End quote. This Simmons and Smith definition of comparative ethnography explains precisely what my study was doing across the 25 different courses under examination. Comparative ethnographies can compare cultural meaning across space or across time or across both. I interviewed and surveyed both alumni and current students, and some of my educator interviewees were retirees, having both played significant roles in the development of popular music tertiary education in Australia. One of the purposes of comparative ethnography is to understand subcultural idioms. A good example of this is Bajol and Smith's work here in Florida on the surf communities and their musical and aesthetic choices. She observed global phenomena where participants were demonstrating identity markers of both local and global communities simultaneously, thereby defying homogeneity and requiring comparative methodologies. Any new developments in research methods which challenge established valid traditions will attract concern regarding legitimacy. Postel addresses concerns about distance ethnography and immersion, stating, I quote, "Yes, it is indeed legitimate to conduct anthropological fieldwork from afar. We use whatever technical means will help us gain insights into the lives of our research participants. Distance ethnographic approaches using digital technologies do not aim to replace long-term immersion in a society, as they do not aim to produce traditional ethnographic knowledge. New forms of immersion and a new epistemology has emerged." My study's approach was external, embracing practices of non-participatory inquiry. The field under examination is both a physical field, a multi-sited one separated by vast distances, as well as a virtual field that exists in the online communities of Australian guitarists. Gray, working from her home in Dublin, used social media to conduct ethnographic research on socio-political movements in Russia. Through the use of online technologies, she was able to stay in touch with events in real time and observe activities in various locations. She describes her experience as a temporal immersion. Her immersive experience included physically experiencing tension while observing protests unfolding on her screen. She describes following the street demonstrations online as experiencing them. She states her body has created experiences she recalls as memories. Using Gray's example, it can be argued immersion in the data can be regarded as an equally immersive experience as being present in the field. In my study, I encountered similar immersive experiences, most notably while conducting interviews, reading education institutions' documents, and visiting associated social media sites. Postel adds virtual immersion can be enhanced by short-term visits or previous experience in the field, both of which were aspects adding to my immersive experience. Another concern in conducting research that employs contemporary design is ensuring reliability and validity. Reliability is concerned with consistency of measures, and validity is concerned with applicability of measures. Reliability and validity markers for traditional ethnographies still apply to contemporary methodologies using online, distance and multi-sited practices. External reliability is the extent to which a study could be replicated to produce the same results. Replicability is a necessary factor in the hard sciences where universality across time and space is assumed. However, in the social sciences, the assumptions are to the contrary. Two studies of the same culture separated by time or distance are expected to return different results. Longitudinal research is often undertaken for the purposes of identifying and measuring social change. It is the aim of social science research to understand contextualized phenomena. Thus, reliability and validity are not measured by similarity of results, but similarity of methods. A further method of reliability that exists in online and/or distance ethnographies is routine. This involves the researcher regularly updating themselves with current activities of online communities being examined. Subscribing to communities' social media pages, newsletters and blogs are methods researchers can use to remain up to date and informed of current activities. This can also help in the immersion aspects of conducting online research with content in the form of photographs and videos. The overlap between ethnography and phenomenograaphy is experience. Ethnography is designed to understand, while phenomenography is designed to describe. By accepting a limited number of interpretive or experiential qualities, phenomenographic researchers can categorize their data into groups, or codes, and order them into hierarchies in relationship to the research questions or inductive themes. In the 21st century distance research, a new phenomenon must also be taken into account if collecting data from online sources. This is the influence of artificial intelligence and algorithms on the readily available data. This is an area ripe for more research. Changes are happening at an unprecedented rate in areas being researched by the social sciences. It is self-evidently appropriate that methodologies adapt concurrently with the changes occurring in the subject being investigated. This includes appropriation of technologies on both a subject of research and a tool to conduct the research, and critical analysis of the methodological approaches must be constantly applied to maintain value of the approaches. Thanks for listening. Any questions?